Okay, it's golden hour. Okay, so this is another thing that I feel is just, like, been on my heart, been on my mind, download from God that I figure I'll just share, and if you relate to it, okay, and if you don't, okay, totally fine. But, so, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I got saved almost, like, it was over 2 years ago. This will be year 3. Probably around, like, I don't know, like, close to October, end of summer, something like that. No, I'll just keep it up here. So, I got saved, like, not today, this year. This year will be 3 years, and in that almost 3 years, God has just shown me, like, thing after thing after thing, like, lesson after lesson after lesson, and, that's how it's supposed to be. If you're pursuing God, it says in scripture that if you seek him, like, with everything, if you seek him with your whole heart, like, you will find him, he's gonna be there, and he's gonna give you downloads and wisdom, and he's gonna walk with you if you're seeking him with your whole heart, So, I got saved, and immediately I was, like, on fire, like, baptized in fire with the Holy Spirit, which, by the way, I do not speak in tongues, no. But I was immediately, like, on fire for Jesus, and I have been, ever since. And so, in that time, I have just learned so many things, and something that, I have found is that it's really interesting, whenever you're growing and whenever you're learning new things, it's almost like, because I've had people ask me, how's your life going, or, like, what's new and stuff like that, and sometimes whenever I try to share something, that I'm walking through, or that I feel like I've gotten a download on, it, like, makes other people upset. It's interesting. Like, I've noticed that people will get upset as if I'm telling them that they have to live, like, the way that I'm living, or, like, they have to, like, change up their life or something, like, change their lifestyle, and you just asked me, like, what's going on, and how I'm doing, and this is new, this is what's going on. So, one of those things I've found that can kind of, like, irritate people, I've noticed, and this, I haven't, like, I don't share this, like, all the time, and it's something super small, but, like, in the handful of times that I have mentioned this or something, I've just had some reactions, I guess, which I think is interesting, because it's just such a small, it was a big thing for me, but it's kind of a small thing. So basically, a download I got is that caffeine is a drug, believe it or not. So, caffeine is a drug, like alcohol, like weed, like it is just something that alters your body. And I feel that in America, because I can't speak for other places, but I feel like in America, obviously there's, like, a Dunkin' everywhere, a Starbucks everywhere, like, for us it's coffee, but caffeine is actually, obviously in tea. I've met people that, this was before, like, I got this download, but, I even at one point didn't know that there was caffeine, like, in tea, because I didn't grow up drinking tea. I just didn't like tea, but, like, in sweet tea, there is caffeine, and some people don't know that, but there's caffeine, in chocolate. A lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that, so, and there's actually, like, a lot of caffeine in chocolate, because the cocoa bean is caffeine. It's, like, it's interesting. I don't know, because it's so bitter and stuff, and that's why you need all the sugar and everything, but, like, the amount of caffeine that's in dark chocolate is about the same as, like, a cup of, like, tea. It's a lot of caffeine, if you're just eating, like, I think, like, an ounce of dark chocolate or something is about the same as a cup of, like, green tea, which is kind of crazy. So, a lot of caffeine. I have had to, like, cut chocolate out, even, like, not chocolate ice cream or chocolate milk, like, I'll still whatever. But if it's like chocolate, like a chocolate bar or like chocolate candy, like I can't eat that anymore because it like affects my system and stuff like that. But basically, I would just find myself so like irritated, so like drained, you know, like, okay, I'm gonna have to give you a little bit of a backstory. So basically, my husband and I went on this missions trip to the Dominican Republic. Okay, it's the first missions trip we had ever done. We haven't been on one since, but it was the first missions trip we had ever done. And that was in the summer of 24. So like already almost a year ago, which crazy. But we went on this missions trip to the Dominican and it was completely life-changing. And I remember because I was struggling with anxiety and stuff. And like I had started drinking caffeine, specifically coffee, because you know that's normally the first type of caffeine that you're like introduced to. I mean, unless it's like an energy drink. For me, it was coffee. So at 19, I was working and somebody told me, you know, why don't you just drink coffee? Like it'll make you like go faster and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I remember at first I was drinking black coffee, which was gross, but I didn't know how to make it. So I would just drink like black coffee. But it worked, you know? And I remember at first it made me like super anxious, super jittery. Like I felt like I was gonna have a panic attack, like whenever I first had it, but I pushed through it because I recognized that it did make me go faster and it did make me like focus more. So I was like, oh, okay. And then, you know, soon I was like at Starbucks and stuff like that. But on this trip to the Dominican, I kind of felt, first of all, my body was reacting because, I mean, at the time I was like 24. So I had been drinking caffeine for like 5 years, but caffeine, some of you might know, because it is a stimulant, it also affects like your appetite and stuff. So my appetite was like terrible. Like I would get like super hungry all at once, but I didn't want to cook because it made me like lazy. Like caffeine, it made me like very self-centered. Like I wanted what I wanted then, and I didn't want to pour into anybody else. Like it was like a wall like in front of me, keeping me from doing the things that God was calling me to do, doing the things that like he would have over my life. It was like I had this drug addiction that I didn't know about, you know? And I know that sounds, I know how it sounds, but it's the truth, okay? And it's just, it's so true. Like I was addicted to this drug and I didn't know it. Like I didn't know it was a drug and I didn't know it was affecting me the way that it was, but I started getting like heart palpitations and I would wake up in the middle of the night with my heart racing, like out of, you know, from sleeping, and it freaked me out and I didn't know what it was, and I would get like chest pains and stuff, and I just like, you know, was tired all the time. And eventually I realized, you know, I would wake up in the morning and go to drink coffee, and I realized it would just kind of ruin my day. Like if I drank it first thing in the morning, it was like literally like all I could do was like sit. Like it made me feel like I couldn't, like I was so overwhelmed by anxiety because of the caffeine, which by the way that caffeine works, is caffeine produces, it either produces or it gives us cortisol in our body, and cortisol is basically stress. Like it's upping your stress levels, and what it's doing is it's activating your fight or flight. So basically whenever you're drinking caffeine like that, and caffeine has a half-life, by the way, so it doesn't just, like, if you drink, say, I don't know, like 80 milligrams of caffeine or something, which I think is about how much there is in maybe like a cup of coffee. So if you drank like 80 milligrams of caffeine after 6 hours, there's still 40 milligrams in your body, and then after that, another 6 hours it's 20, another 6 hours it's 10, like it has a half-life. So after a full day, it's still in your body, you know? So then you go to drink the caffeine the next day because, okay, I need this. Like I need to drink it in the morning because I need to like do everything today, and I have to work out, and I have to go to the grocery store, and I have to go to work. And so you drink the caffeine and you're just upping the amount of cortisol in your body, and your fight or flight levels are like going crazy, and you're constant, like your body is constantly in stress mode. And that's why you think faster, like whenever you first drink it, you know? like like say, if you drink it maybe first thing in the morning, or if you like haven't had coffee in 2 days or something, and then you go to drink it, you might realize that you're kind of like thinking a little bit faster after you first had it. It's because, think about if you were in a super stressful situation, like, I don't know, you're walking down the sidewalk and somebody's like following you. Your heart's going faster, and you might like memorize, your location and maybe what the person looks like, and then after that, say you go to the police station or something and they're interrogating you, you might feel like you remember certain things like stronger, they stand out more. It's because your brain, like all the synapses in your brain and the neurons are firing faster, because if you're in a stressful situation, once again, God created everything perfectly. He made it perfectly. So if you're in a stressful situation, you have to be able to think quickly, to be able to respond and stuff. And we do that naturally on our own. Like naturally, our body has the fight or flight. It will pump out cortisol, and our brain starts going faster. We start like sweating. We start, you have to pee, like things like that, because that's your body's response to stress, and the thing is, caffeine does that. It's almost like the way I think about it is, it's almost like if you were playing like a video game or something and you found like, I don't know, like a secret little like Easter egg or something, or like a secret little like remedy or something that I don't play video games, but it just makes me think of like an Uno reverse card or something like that like, and I know this might sound a little, once again, if you're with it, you're with it. If you're not, you're not. If you're taking half of it, take half of it. It just kind of feels like Satan's little, like God designed our bodies perfectly, right? But we have free will. And there are things on this earth that that can challenge you. Like, say for example, like if you're attracted to another person or something, that you're not supposed to be with. It's like that person was created in the image of God. That person is godly, but if you take it too far and you go into lust and stuff, now it's become something that Satan can use against you. And that's just kind of how I think about caffeine. Like, I don't know, God, like he made this planet and he made everything on it perfectly, but at the same time, I know how caffeine affects me, and God already made our bodies. He made our bodies to already have that stress response. And you know what else is crazy? I've noticed too that we have natural adrenaline. This is something I kind of had to figure out, because like I was saying, in the Dominican, I had to get on a plane, like to fly. I had to get on a plane to fly to the Dominican and fly from, and I was gradually like lessening my caffeine intake before the Dominican. Like a few months before that, I had realized it was too much, because I was getting the heart palpitate. Like I was seeing physical, like I was getting sick, and I didn't want that for my body. So I stopped. I kind of started, like I would drink half a cup of coffee. Like I started cutting it down, and then I would drink like maybe black tea. I think at first I started off with 2 bags of black tea, actually, when I was transitioning, and then like black tea, green tea, and I was trying to cut down my caffeine intake. And then like a week or a few days or something, like before the Dominican, I stopped drinking any kind of tea, because I know how caffeine affects me and how it makes me anxious, because of that thing I was saying earlier about, the cortisol and the fight or flight that it triggers in your body. I knew it was making me anxious, and I knew I was so anxious to ride in the car with people. I was so anxious to have conversations with people. Like not regular conversations, but like maybe harder conversations. I was nervous to maybe even a little bit go driving sometimes by myself, or like getting on a plane, being on a boat. like things that make me kind of naturally a little bit anxious, it was so exasperated and elevated with the caffeine. So I cut it out like a week before I went to the Dominican. And even still, like, getting on the plane, I was like crying because I was so nervous to get on this plane. And like, I just really had to trust in God in that moment too, and that could be like a whole other thing. But basically, you know, I had kind of like, the Dominican taught me that I didn't need caffeine to keep going. And that's where the adrenaline comes in, because basically God designed it, you know, so that if you, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but if you're low on sleep, it's like harder to go to sleep than if you're, say, like you're getting a nap in every day and you're still getting like 7-8 hours or something, like good sleep. It's easier for you to fall asleep, you know? But if you're stressed out and if you're low on sleep, it's harder to fall asleep. And the reason it's harder to fall asleep is because your body is producing adrenaline to keep you going, which is a natural thing. It's like God created natural caffeine in our bodies. And when I found out about this, because now it took time and it took sacrifice, because I had to put down the caffeine and I had to realize what God was trying to tell me. And this took me like months. I'm still struggling with this because I didn't even realize I had these chocolate chips in the house, and they were the semi-sweet chocolate chips, and I had cut out like all caffeine. Like my sister even bought me this white tea for Christmas. That's like the lowest amount of caffeine that you could possibly get, like from a leaf. And it was still like way too much for me. So I had cut out like all the caffeine. And then there were these chocolate chips in the house, and I would take like a handful of them or something and just eat them, because you think, oh, it's sweet, like the sugar, because I'm in school and stuff. So like, oh, it'll push me through if I have to clean the house. Or I was still seeking out caffeine, and I didn't realize that's what I was doing. Because like, there's a reason that chocolate tastes so good. Like, there's a reason, I don't know, there's a reason, you know, and there's caffeine in it. And I didn't realize like that the amount of chocolate that I was eating, and I was only taking like maybe 2 handfuls of like semi-sweet chocolate chips, or maybe I would make like a yogurt bowl in the morning, and I was still getting the same amount of caffeine as I would from green tea. Like, I looked it up, I did the math, and I was still basically drinking green tea every day. And it explained why I was so like irritable, because at first I didn't understand, because I had cut out like, you know, God had shown me, and it was a battle back and forth where I would go to the store, I would buy tea bags, I would drink it, realize how horrible it made me feel. Like, you know, of course you get the withdrawals, like the caffeine headaches. I would get like jittery legs and stuff. Like, every time I was trying to go without caffeine, like I was literally relapsing. I'm not joking. Like, I was literally on this drug, and it was so hard to get off of it, because that too was another strong point for me, like seeing like the withdrawal symptoms. I would be trying to go to sleep, and my legs, I couldn't keep them still because I was like not drinking caffeine anymore, and I would get like horrible migraines. My sleep schedule was like completely thrown off. Like, it was almost like I would be super tired, but then I couldn't sleep, and it was just like terrible. You know, my appetite was all messed up. And then I just started eating the chocolate chips, and it happened like all over again. And at first, I'll admit, it was super sneaky, because at first I did not understand like why I was being short, like with my husband and with my daughter, and why like I didn't want to, because caffeine does that. Like, caffeine makes you very irritable, very like, you're so, because you're in fight or flight. All this cortisol is pumping through your body. You're so stressed out, and all you want to do is sleep. That's all you really want to do. And I understand that sometimes people can't sleep. Like, I definitely can't, like being a mom and like cleaning the house and stuff. But I have so much more stamina, and I have so much more, I guess the word that comes to my mind for some reason is like long suffering. I don't know, like, I can go so much longer and be so much more productive and not be worn out like the way that I am with caffeine. Like, it's honestly really surprising. Like, I don't know, if you feel it on your heart. And of course, if you don't, then you don't. But if if this resonates with you, and you've been feeling like irritable and you can't figure it out, like maybe just try lessening the amount of caffeine that you're consuming, and try trying to slow down just a little bit, because it's not worth it to be so irritable, and it makes you so talkative. Like caffeine, you feel like you have to be uppity, and that's just not always how life has to be. There's like seasons, there's moments. You don't always have to be like animated like that. That's not how God calls us to be all the time. You don't have to be overworking yourself like that. You can just be yourself, and I've just noticed that my true self has come out so much more without the drug, like without being on caffeine. I'm so much more free to be myself. I feel like my humor is back. I feel like I can laugh more, and I feel like I'm just so more like at ease. I'm more bold. Like I feel I don't know, it's just really been transforming. I feel like I'm more soft, like I'm more gentle with family. I don't hold grudges like the way that I used to. I don't, because it's like, who has time for that? I don't have time for that. Like I'm not hyped up anymore. I'm not fighting. I'm not in fight or flight. Like I don't feel like I have to like gear up and everybody's my enemy. Like no. No, sorry. I love everybody. You're created in the image of Christ, and God has a perfect plan for all of us, and there's no time to be so stressed out and upset like that whenever he has a plan, for my life. And I could be missing it, just because I was so distracted and overwhelmed with the thing I thought I needed. Like God would not create us, by the way. God would not create us with a purpose and a plan for our life and then say, you know what, you can't accomplish that unless you have this drink. Unless you have, the candy, the chocolate, or that coffee from Starbucks. Like, you're not going to accomplish what I have for you today. Nope. Nope, because he made us perfectly and he made us wonderfully in our mother's womb. And we don't need it, And that's something that he's shown me, and it has changed my life like crazy. Like I used to have back pain. It affected me. Caffeine affected me so much. And it was terrible. I was so stressed out. And so my life is completely different. And of course it's all glory to God. My life it's just so crazy, like to think that I just feel like my childhood self again too. It just reminds me so much of like that peace I had as a child, just like the not being so stressed out all the time. At least for me, like childhood was a time where I wasn't so stressed out, and I feel like I'm back in that space because the cortisol is not taking over my body. So yeah, that's the download I got for caffeine, and how I feel like it's just, it was ruining my wallet, it was ruining my health, my relationships, and turns out God already designed me to be able to go through life without that substance, and I just didn't know it. So like, yeah, I thought I would share that. Yeah, okay. That's all for now. So, bye.